Hello, welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Even though it's the 30th of December today and it was absolutely freezing last night, it's actually 26 degrees in this greenhouse, so just goes to show you can always start things off at this time of year if you really want to. So anyway, here's today's episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Okay, so I haven't really done a tour of such for a few weeks, so I'll just go around to show you how things are going on. Now, the rocket, as you can see, is still doing reasonably well. Now, it's only natural for it to try to run to seed at this time of year. So what you want to do is, these shoots that are coming, if you can see, they come up from the middle here. What you want to do is just pull them out, because that's going to prevent it running to seed. So you can see there's one there. Just pull that out and put your thumb through it, and then that'll stop the plant from actually bolting and running to seed. So it'll make sure you get plenty of leaves going on into the future. So if you just go along, and then it's only natural this time of year for it to try to run to seed because of the weather. So all you need to do is just take out the centre of every plant, and then it'll, as you can see, there's one there. Then it'll keep going. So in the greenhouse we've got the these are the bits and bobs that I got from the strawberries the other day. So they're dry-ish. So I'll have a go at burning them later on today. Those plants there, the aloe vera plants are doing all right, but I need to get them in the house really. The rosemary is going all right. That'll be okay in the greenhouse. And these aqualegia plants here, sorry, not aqualegia, hydrangeas. As you can see, the leaves are sort of dying off now, which you'd expect anyway, because it's a deciduous plant. But they're going to be all right for the spring. So what I might do is actually just bring them over and put them on top of the surface over here now. So if you keep them up in the air like that, as far into the middle of the greenhouse as you can, like that. That's going to be the warmest part of the greenhouse. Obviously the glass is going to get cold in the night, so anything that you want to keep in the greenhouse, keep it as high as you can. Obviously hot air rises, and keep it in as far in the centre as the greenhouse. Obviously probably the best place for them to be would be there actually. So any plants that you've got that you want to keep over the winter, keep it away from the glass and in the centre of the greenhouse, then that'll be alright. So obviously I've got stuff in this bed here at the moment. I've got the lettuce, which is coming on alright, so I'll be able to have some of that soon. A little bit slower than I first anticipated it would be, but nevertheless it's still coming. So I'll be getting some of that lettuce very shortly. I've not been doing any water in the greenhouse whatsoever recently, because basically the ground is damp enough as it is, and even though the temperature in the greenhouse has been reaching, as I say, it's actually 25 now, as you can see. Before I opened the door this morning, it was actually saying 26, as you can see at the bottom there. It's been 26. I reset that 2 days ago. But what I'm going to do today is this border here. I'm just going to clear it out. Now, what I always do for these boxes in the greenhouse is I normally take about sort of 9 inches, 12 inches of dirt off the top, put that outside, and then replace that with some dirt from outside. Then that basically freshens up the border, but also it's done more than anything, it's done for disease control, because tomatoes are sort of dirty plants, and if you don't replace the soil in your greenhouse, you can be more prone to things like blight and other diseases that you get on tomato plants. So what I'm going to be doing in a moment is just taking all the stuff off here. Obviously this is the coffee and stuff that I've got here. I'll just be moving that over to here, and then I'll be taking out about 9 inches of soil off the top, and then I'll be putting that outside and then replacing it with some soil from outside that I've already dug some muck into. So but I will be putting some more muck in here. For this one here, this is the one that I put the cucumbers in, and what I'll be doing is, for this one, as I've explained before, I'll be putting some fresh lawn cuttings in the border, about sort of 4 or 5 inches worth underneath. The reason I do that is, as it breaks down, it gives off a lot of heat and it keeps the border or the box hot, which is what cucumbers like. They like to have their roots warm. So, but I'll be doing that in the spring, a week or so before I put the cucumbers in. So this border here will be done in the spring in about 3 months' time. But this one here, I can be doing that today, so that's exactly what I'll be doing. So what I'm basically going to do is just get you might find this easier with a shovel. Well, I've got the wheelbarrow in the greenhouse just behind the camera, and all I'm doing is just taking out about sort of 9 inches off the top, like that. Obviously when you're doing this, if you've got blotches the same as I've made here, what you do need to be careful of when you're doing this is you don't pierce the plastic that you've got running around the inside of it, because if you pierce this, obviously water's then going to penetrate onto the wood and it'll send your wood rotten. But what the important thing is that you're doing here is you're taking off the top of the soil. So you need to make sure that you sort of work methodically and just take off the actual top surface, because it's the top surface where you're going to get all the disease, which is really the main reason why you're doing this. So work your way along and just take off sort of small spadefuls of dirt like that. So you're actually taking off the top surface. And I guess out of this border's kind of 6 foot long, 3 foot wide. I'm going to be taking something like 3 barrows full out of here, just to give you an idea. So probably about half a ton of soil will come out of here. So what I'm going to do now is work my way around and then completely clear out all of the soil that I'm going to get rid of before I start putting any fresh in. Because what you do want to do is obviously get out the top surface. As soon as you've got all the top surface out, then you can start to put in the fresh. Don't start putting fresh in until you've got all the old out, because you can be transferring the disease from the old to the new, obviously. So as soon as that's obviously the back corner, now what I will do is kind of lean in like that and then come back like that and get the stuff from the bit that's closest to me. So I'll continue to do that. So what I've done is I've taken out 3 wheelbarrows, as I said, and I've put in 2 wheelbarrows back. The reason I've done that is I'm not only going to put dirt back in from outside, I'm also going to put some muck and some potting compost, just to richen the soil up. So what I need to do now is, just by putting the spade in like that and just rotating it round, I don't know if you can see that action that I'm doing, but basically what I'm doing is breaking up and mixing up the soil with what was remaining at the bottom. But also what you want to do is get air into the soil, because you'll find that over the last growing season the soil at the bottom will have become sort of compacted at the bottom, and what you want to do is loosen that up as much as you can. So this new soil that you put in, that's got all worms and all the good stuff in it, is all mixed up with the worms are a real bonus, because what you want to do is get as much sort of worms and grubs and stuff like that into the greenhouse as you can, because they're the ones that are going to break down all the stuff that you're putting into the soil to make the nutrients available to the plants that you're going to grow in here next season. So out of all the insects that we've got, you know, there are very few of them that are actually unwanted, really, because what you want to do is work with, as I've said on a number of occasions before, you need to work with Mother Nature. There are things there that are going to break down the stuff in the soil for you and make all those nutrients available to your plants. So what you want to do is introduce those into your greenhouse, and worms are obviously going to be one of the major parts of that. So by putting the fresh soil in, you're not only putting in fresh, undiseased soil, but you're also putting in microbes, you're also putting in worms, and all of these things are going to be in the soil now, breaking the soil down and making all the nutrients in there available to your plants. Okay, so now all that's mixed in, what I'm going to do is put in some compost. Now here's half the bag that I've started, and I'm using Miracle Grow all-purpose enriched compost. But the one piece of advice that I would give you is, when you're buying your compost, don't scrimp, because there are a lot of composts out there, particularly now. I mean, when I first started growing, all composts were pretty much the same. You know, they were all very much peat-based composts, and now almost none of them are peat-based. So you really need to be careful what you're buying now, because a lot of you want a compost which is largely based. I mean, if you look at that, that's obviously sort of leaf mulch broken down, and it's got a lot of sort of organic material in it. None of it's too sort of large, you know, and it's nice, sort of friable. You know, it's not. You know, when you've got compost, you should be able to put your hand in it and feel, you know, the quality of it, if you like. Now, there are some makes out there. I don't really want to name and shame, but John Arthur Bowers isn't a good quality compost. The stuff that they use a lot of recycled material from that, you know, that basically comes from people's green bins, and it's quite coarse. You know, there's a lot of sort of chopped up wood in there. You know, you get lumps of stuff like that big. That's just a bit of ice in here, but you get lumps of wood in there, and there's a lot of, I've found there's a lot of seed in there as well that you really don't want in there. So what I would suggest is, when you come to buy your compost, if you do it like I do it, you don't use a lot of compost. I mean, I use probably, in a year, I probably use about 6 bags of compost, if that. And it's well worth you buying the good quality stuff. Don't sort of scrimp and get the cheaper stuff, because you're really not doing yourself any favours, and your seeds aren't going to grow properly, and most certainly your plants aren't going to yield anywhere near as much as if you bought good quality. So what I recommend is Miracle Grow's a very good general all-purpose compost. So that's the second bag on it, and the seed compost is John Innings. That's what I use for seedlings. That's a loam-based potting seed compost, and that's I've found the best sort. You know, you don't want anything that holds the moisture too much when you're putting the seeds in. You want something that you know, which will drain freely, because you don't want seeds sitting in water. So I've found that if you want the best results from your seeds, I always find John Innings the best compost you can use. So that's it. So basically all I've done now is just sprinkled round the top. So there's probably there's a bag and a half of compost in here. So there's probably about 5 or 6 inches of compost on the top. I'm not going to mix that in straight away. What I will be doing is, before I plant it up, what I'll be doing is again with the spade going round and sort of mixing this all up, and I'll be putting some I'll also be putting some chicken muck in here as well before I plant the tomatoes and that in here. But that's basically the bed ready for next year, or for this year should I say. So there's a top view of the bed. So as I say, I'll be leaving that as it is now for a bit, and then I'll be putting some more stuff in there. So it will be pretty close to the top when it's all in there, because I'll probably put about a barrow of chicken manure in there just before I start to plant it. So that's the board in the greenhouse. So just one quick tip before we go round. If you've got a raised greenhouse like I've got, always put some bricks underneath where your wheelbarrow wheel's going to go on both sides, so you can get the wheelbarrow in and out easily, but also it stops you stressing the frame of the greenhouse. So that's always well worth doing. So around the allotment, one thing I will be doing is that this is an ideal time of the year to get out the perennial weeds like these dandelions. There's one there as well, and there's a few at the top. So I'll be pulling them out in the near future. The other thing is as well is now's a good time of the year to pull out any of the dead raspberry canes. Now the way to do this, obviously I tied all these up a few months ago, and to tell which one is dead or not, or basically if you just flex it like that, if it breaks, obviously that's ready to come out. So if you can, say this one here, this one looks like yeah, this one's still alive. So if I flex it, look, it's not breaking. So as you can see, there are the buds for this year coming. So that one's obviously, but this one here, that's obviously dead. That one's dead. So what you can do is you can go around now, and now's an ideal time whilst there's no leaves on the bushes now. It's an ideal time. Now this one here, this one looks dead. So if I just, it's best with gloves on, to be honest with you, but if you flex, as you can see, it snaps. So obviously that one's dead. So you can pull out all the old raspberry canes, and it's a good time to burn them now as well. So what I'll be doing over the next few days, all being well if I get the time, is to come up and just pull out all the old canes and tie back any of the ones that come adrift as well in the winter winds. But as I say, if you look along the stems, can you see some of them are like a browny colour and some of them are like a silver colour? That's normally a good giveaway. The ones that are silver are the ones that are dead, so those are the ones you can pull out. The ones that have got a browny tinge on them are all, are still alive, and they're the ones that are going to bear fruit for this year. So with your raspberry canes, go along now. Any that look silver, give them a flex with your hand. If they snap, they're obviously dead, pull them out. And then take them all the way down to the ground. What you might want to do is when you get down to the ground, just get a pair of secateurs and chop them off rather than breaking them off, because you can damage the rootstock. There's the soil I took out the greenhouse just. There's the hole of the stuff that I put in, so I'll just be raking that stuff over there to fill that hole up. So there's the that's what I've just been doing with the greenhouse. Now with your spinach, it will try to bolt. This is exactly the same as the rocket in the greenhouse. So if it tries to bolt, snap it off. Oh, actually, I'll pull that one out. But if you do see any that are bolting, snap off the centre the centre shoot, and it'll stop it from running to seed, and then you'll get some in the spring as well. So that's the best thing you can do with the spinach. The kale's just about finished now. Obviously you can see there's just a few bits of leaves on the top of there, but I'll be giving them to the chickens anyway. Now this time of year, if I'm being absolutely honest with you, what I normally do is I'm normally digging the trenches for the beans at this time of year. And basically what you do is you dig a trench which is 2 spades wide, and try and get it at least a spade and a half or so deep. Now the beans this year are going to go here, so they're going to start around here and they're going to work up to around here. So the row of beans is going to go this way this year. Now this is the ground that I had a problem with earlier in the year, if you remember, and I dug a load of wood chippings and all other bits and bobs in there to try and improve the ground. But what I will be doing is putting the beans along here. Now the reason you dig a trench is starting here. What I would do is dig a trench all the way up along there, up to about kind of here. And then what you do is you fill all of your kitchen scraps, all of your peelings and everything like that, all go into the trench. And then anything that you've got, sort of paper or cardboard, anything like that, can go in the trench as well. And then basically what you're trying to do is put as much compost and water retentive material into the ground as you possibly can do, because beans are a very greedy plant, and they also like the moisture. So what you're trying to do is basically fill a trench full of stuff. Obviously straw is another thing you can put in there, but basically fill the trench full of stuff that's going to have loads of nutrients in it, and also hold the water as best you can. And then when you plant the beans on top of that, then obviously the roots are going to go down into there and give you the best bean crop that you can get. So the reason I've not done it is I'm trying to organise a load of manure to be delivered. As you know, I put a lot of chicken manure on my allotment, but I'm going to actually try and get some horse manure if I can. And the reason I've not dug it yet is this is going to be the ideal position for it to be dropped. Obviously we've got the lane here, and my next door neighbour here has just got wood chip on the front here, so what I'm hoping is the tractor can back up here and drop it off on here. So that's why I've not dug the trench yet, but this time of year is when I'd normally be digging the trench for the beans. So if you're planning to put runner beans in, or even any other beans, that's one job that you can be getting on with at the moment. It's good exercise, I must admit, but basically what you want to do is dig a trench around 2 foot wide, so 2 spades wide, and try and get it at least a spade and a half deep, and then exactly where your beans are going to go, dig it all the way up, and then start chucking your stuff in to prepare the ground for your beans. So that's one thing you can most certainly be doing this time of year. So as you can see, there's not a lot on the plot at the moment. We have had quite a lot of parsnips. As you can see, the ground's quite frozen, so I can't really get up here to do much at the moment. But I've probably had around a third of the parsnips. You can see those 2 sticks, that one there and that one there. That's showing me where I've got to. And we have had some quite good parsnips, to be honest with you. I've had a couple that quite funny really. They were like a ball shape. They looked really big from the top, and then as soon as I dug down, they were only as deep as they were wide. So yet I had one. I actually had a monster on Christmas Day when I came up. I actually had one that was nearly 3 foot long, which was a bit of a monster, but unfortunately I snapped the bloody thing off when I was digging it out. But nevertheless, it tasted tasted nice. I need to get round to digging this here, and obviously the one thing I will start to be thinking of doing soon is these tunnels are going to be moving. So these 2 tunnels are going to be moving down to something like here. So you see where I've got those little frames running along the floor there, that's going to be the first tunnel. So the first tunnel is going to go from kind of here to here, and then the second tunnel is going to go from here to around here. Obviously the potatoes went here last year, so this is where the brassicas are going to go. And then where the onions were and where these tunnels are at the moment, that's where the potatoes are going to go this year. So the top bit are going to be the potatoes, and then this bit here is going to be the tunnels, and then obviously the other bits. Well, it's as I showed you in the plan, but I need to start thinking about moving these down to here before too much longer, so I can get them all sorted out. Now, one thing I will be doing in episodes coming up is I need to start strengthening these tunnels. This one is kind of collapsed in the middle, as you can see. This middle bit here, I need to put another string along to try and support that. And this one here, what I'm actually going to be doing is putting some metal work in the top of it to pull this over like that. So and also these bits here, which snapped off last winter, I'm going to be welding those up as well. So before I move them, what I do need to be doing is getting in there with the welder and a bit more metal work for at the top to try and strengthen them up a bit, because the weather did have the best of them last year. So excuse me. So I'll be sorting those out. Now, I haven't done much more to the strawberries, but what I will be doing is just going over those again as I explained in the next couple of weeks, and taking off any more sort of dead shoots and bits and bobs that are in there, and then I'll be putting the frames, which are here, back over the top of the over the strawberries, so they're ready to go for next year. So that's the allotment as it is. Obviously I haven't done a tour for probably about a month now, so I just wanted to quickly show you around. There's not a lot going on at the moment, obviously because of the time of year, but I just wanted to show you what was going on. So what I will be doing now is burning all of this rubbish that I've got here and out of that tub there in the incinerator. Now this time of year fires are notoriously difficult to get started, so all of this wood here, this is the offcuts and the bits of the pallets that I was making the fence for the rhubarb, and also the shelf and the the work surface in the greenhouse out of. These are all the offcuts from that. So these have all been in the shed where it's been nice and dry. So the best way to do it is to start off with some paper, some bits and bobs that are going to burn easy, and then start off with thin small bits of wood which are going to catch fire easily. Obviously it all needs to be dry, and then chuck on the bigger stuff to get it really going. Now as soon as you've got the fire going, you can then start putting in any sort of bits of wood that's a bit wetter or whatever, because the heat of the fire will drive the water off and it will burn. But you most certainly need to start off with some nice dry wood to get it all going. So what I'm going to do to start with is to set this paper on fire, and then just drop that in the bottom of the box. And obviously flames always go upwards, so as you can see, by doing it like this, as you can see, that bit's already quite well on fire. I don't know if you can see that. So I'll just drop that in the bottom now, and obviously that will start to burn. Now because that bit's already going well, we'll just put these bits in as well, the cardboard in. This paper is a little bit sort of heavier duty, but that will soon burn quite well. Now the next thing you want to do, as soon as the flames start like this, you want to get the thin stuff in there before the flames burn out, because the paper, even though it burns well, it will soon burn out. And you can see it makes a real difference when you've got dry wood, because it'll all start to burn really quickly. If you hear that cracking sound, that's when you know the wood's starting to go. So you know it's the fire's going to take off quite well. Right, now I'll just give that a couple of minutes. Now I can start to put on the more sort of thicker, sort of half-inch thick pieces of wood. And what you want to do is, when you put the wood in, you want to make sure there's plenty of air gaps between the bits of wood. It will die down a little bit to start with, but don't worry about that, it'll soon catch and take off. Now as soon as you've got it to that, then you can, I'll put those thick bits on in a bit actually. So all these little offcuts and that I've got in here. Now what I'll do now is, before I start putting any of the strawberry bits and bobs, and what I'll do is I'll just let that really catch until I'm getting flames coming out of it, because even though I've had the strawberry bits and bobs in the greenhouse for a few days, they're still a little bit damp. So what I want to do is make sure that that's nice and hot before I actually put them on there, so it dries out and burns all in one go. Oh, it's now about 3 o'clock and the temperature's dropped to 6 degrees in the greenhouse. It really does come in sharp at night at the moment. But I just wanted to say a big thank you for watching. I hope this episode has been of some use to you. A quick thank you to Tracy. She's got me some secateurs and a stainless steel trowel and fork. So thank you very much for those. They'll most certainly come in useful for next year. I just wanted to say A happy New Year to all my viewers, and I hope you have a nice New Year celebration. And I'll see you in the next episode, which will be next year, with loads of more stuff to do. There'll be plenty more stuff going on in the allotment, but I just wanted to say thank you for all of your support in 2014. I really do appreciate all of your comments and everything that you've put, and all the people who have subscribed. So big thank you for that, and I'll see you in 2015. So from Jim's Allotment Garden, all the best. Happy New Year.